And we're live, Kirsten. I would
Hello, good
say,
morning, everyone.
and
Good
welcome back. We are
afternoon, good
back with
wherever
this
you are.
true. We have to keep it in mind. People are watching this not only in Europe but all over. And I think it's great to say that we are happy that we can now start again with the accommodating. We still have a couple of standards more to go, and then we'll move also to team coaching. I know we've missed and I hope that I'm not wrong when I say, and I wouldn't believe that you've missed us. You've missed our conversations about the core standards. And today we're going to look at number 5, which is enabling insight and learning. Same structure, I would say, Kirsten. Definition: what is this all about? How do we look at indicators? How do we use it in our reflective practice for either accreditation or growth or reaccreditation? So, that being said, start with the definition. Should I
Yes.
just read it out loud?
Yes.
Enabling insight and learning equals to works with the client and sponsor to bring about insight and learning. Pretty much same thing said 2 times. How do you take this?
I think what is interesting here is that the sponsor is included in enabling insight and learning. And in my experience, that's what often happens is that when you're doing a um, coaching contract with a sponsor, that you're also able to shift the sponsor's perspective. So maybe um, I can give an example. If it's a coaching for performance enhancement, or if, let's say, the sponsor would like a coachee to improve something, then usually they would come and tell you all the things that the client should improve. And by asking, okay, so what should be better? How would you notice that it's getting better? The sponsor also has insights. Or if you ask the sponsor, what should the client not change? Then you are already able to change this perspective of the sponsor. So it's not just about the client. And I think that's really great. And when I look at the capability indicators at foundation, practitioner, senior practitioner, and mastery level, um, as with the others, as with the ICF competencies, there are a couple of capability indicators where I'm like, maybe I don't understand, but we're like, would this be something that is actually valid for all coaching approaches? And is this really necessary? But then this is the EMCC capability indicators are helping you with reflecting. They are not something that you have to show in each and every recording or in each and every coaching session like in ICF. This is very much about you reflecting on your capabilities and how you interpret these capability indicators. And it's not about this is what needs to happen. So I think that's why I'm quite happy with the EMCC capability indicators as they give us kind of moments to reflect. I can go through the capability indicators at foundation level and enabling insight and learning. Um, I don't want to read all of the 6 capability indicators, but I think at foundation level, the most important thing is that the coach acts as someone who asks questions, listens well, and is also able to understand that the client makes their own choices. So, someone who understands coaching as an activity where the coach is enabling the other person to think for themselves rather than tell the other person what to do. And that's also the first capability indicator here is demonstrates in their mentoring and coaching their belief that others learn best for themselves. And the other capability indicators follow from that. And I think it's very valid that this is the foundation level, because that is the foundation of coaching. If you don't know how to do that, or if your idea is that coaching is telling people what to do, then you probably have a different idea than ICF and EMCC. Then at practitioner level, I always get confused in my head, like all these languages. Anyway, so at practitioner level, we have some language here around, I would say, more intensive listening or more deliberate listening. So we have explains potential blocks to effective listening as a capability indicator. So it doesn't mean that explains to the client. It means you are able to understand, that sometimes you're not able to listen. Maybe if you are focusing on something else, if your mind is busy with something else. So it's very connected to managing self. So the idea is that if you're able to explain to someone else, not the client, to someone else, that what keeps you from listening, or what tends to keep you from listening, if it happens, then the capability indicator would be met. And I think the rest is very much around, as I said, a more deliberate listening, being alert to tone and modularity of the conversation, and the next is identifying patterns of client thinking and actions. That's something that some coaching approaches do, others don't. I always say in solution focused, kind of patterns are something for knitting. It's not something that we generally pay a lot of attention to unless the client mentions it. I think noticing patterns and observing the client has the danger of bringing in our perspective too much. I think it's okay if you are noticing something and you are mentioning it as an offering. So maybe last week you described how you successfully did this, and today you're describing something that is very similar. Is that related in any way? You could ask, and then the client could see if that pattern makes sense. What I wouldn't do is be on the lookout for patterns. I think there is there's really a very, very fine line between I am noticing something as a human being and I'm offering it, or in conversation, as it will happen, because we are in conversation, or I am sitting here on the lookout for your patterns. So that, not sure if anybody actually does that. I don't want to create a straw man here, but I don't think that the second for me would be good coaching. That sounds to me more like, I don't know, not very good therapy or assessment, evaluation or something, but not coaching.
So it seems to me like this difference between finding correlations or identifying things that in your mind they seem like they're coming together, and probably also for the client,
because they just do. Yep.
Diagnosis and saying, oh, you've mentioned 3 times this word, hence
it should mean something, but maybe it doesn't mean something because it's just happened. Yeah. And it should always be in the realm of the client to decide whether our observations are useful or not. I mean, we had a really lovely exercise in one of the coaching and organizations classes where we did something called definitional ceremonies and retelling. somebody told a story about how they overcame something that they were very proud of how they acted, and the others were supposed to retell and also say what resonates with them. And it was very interesting that whatever resonated with the people who were listening was also what they picked up, and it was very different things. So what we notice about the client always has to do with us as much as it has to do with the client, and that's why it needs to stay an offering. And the second part of enabling insight and learning, obviously, is being able to ask a range of questions, be able to know more than, let's say, the 10 solution focused questions that you need in the beginning. But that's the good thing about solution focus. You can start with 10 questions and maybe even 5. Yeah. And you can start being helpful. And also, as what you can see with foundation practitioner, senior practitioner, master practitioner, is that this impartiality, this understanding that it is the client's choice to decide what they want to do after the coaching session. And another thing that's added at the practitioner level is the ability to manage or support the whole process. So it says uses reviews to deepen understanding and commitment to action. So from coaching session to coaching session, remembering, asking the client how they can be supported in order to benefit maximally from the coaching sessions. At senior practitioner, again, it's about an even bigger range of techniques to raise awareness, to be even more in the moment and even less in your head, more flexibility. It says applies a holistic perspective. So the awareness that my attention doesn't necessarily mean that this is the right attention. What I want to focus on might not be the thing the client wants to focus on, but really seeing the client as a whole person, and not being afraid to ask permission to coach in sensitive areas. And also the ability to coach the client in integrating their context. So it says recognizes the uncertainties, possibilities, and constraints of the client's situational context. So that gets added at senior practitioner level. So it's more presence, more flexibility, and more holistic understanding, ability to talk about more topics, plus integrating the client's context, environment, and the whole complexity of where the client, how the client lives, who they are in contact with. And then mastery builds on that. So mastery, then the capability indicator are about being able to help clients with a complex range of needs. So the client situations can, at mastery level, the coach can coach even more complex situations of the client. And another add-on is the responsiveness to the client. I think we've mentioned that before. At mastery level, it is really about being in the moment and responding to the client in this situation effectively, without much chatter going on in the head of the coach. It says, I like the way this is phrased here, adapts approach technique in the moment in response to client information while also holding a focus on outcome. So it's not just being in the moment and having a nice coffee chat that can go here, there, and everywhere, but it's about being in the moment, but at the same time of figuring out what the client, or holding in your mind what the client wants, and participating in the conversation such that the outcome is always the guideline. And the second point here I would have a little beef with, again, enables significant and fundamental shifts in thinking and behavior. Not so sure, because I think sometimes you can coach masterfully and nothing happens. And then that doesn't have anything to do with you. It just happens that the situation of the client is such that there isn't much that can move. But the good thing with the capability indicators is they are not something you have to show in each and every recording. It's a way for you to reflect. So you could think, generally, when I look over my last 2 weeks, in which coaching session did something shift for the client? What, if anything, did I contribute to that? And then maybe you can learn from that. And that's what I like about the EMCC capability indicators. They offer us an impulse, to think, oh, okay, for example, it identifies patterns of client thinking and action, where I would go a show pattern, knitting. But still I can think for myself, okay, when did I notice something that could be described as a pattern? How did I offer it to the client? What worked for me in my own coaching style? Reflect on it and get better. So those are the capability indicators at the 4 different levels. And if you have any questions, obviously come join us in our free meetup and exchange at www.solutionsacademy.com/registration, or write in the comments, ask questions, whatever is helpful for you.
At any point, we're more than happy also to pick up all different topics for our conversations, because I find it relevant that we went now through ICF, and if you want to find the ICF core competencies, go on the YouTube channel or on LinkedIn, they're still saved, and the rest of the competencies or the standards from EMCC, we've covered them also. We have a plan also to move from the individual coaching to team coaching, but I'm more than sure that there are also other topics out there that might be relevant, and probably we'll need to bring a bit of how is SF positioned in relation to EMCC ICF. Is this, like you've mentioned earlier, you have those 5 questions. I think the one that I truly enjoy is every time, what else? Because it's just such a beautiful question.
Well, it depends. It
And
can also be a shitty question. The what else question really, it's like, oh, I'm always so sad. Everything is horrible. What else? Then it's a shitty question. Sorry for my French.
I don't think it's useful to just, links back to what we've now went through, enabling insight and learning. In one of the moments in the development, one of the indicators that you mentioned also was this shift between just some sort of active listening to really being in the moment, to responding to and keeping the needs of the client in mind. So I think that's the moment when this shift happens between, do I bring the what else or I leave it aside? Because as I'm being in the completely aware of what's happening in this conversation, I'm not sticking anymore to the structure. I'm really thinking what the client needs. And so might be useful also to bring this kind of components of how is SF, how is solution focus looking through the lenses of the 2 associations, but probably also going there further. So
punch them on the nose. Reinterpret.
And I see that there's a comment from a LinkedIn user says, it is very formative and instructive to follow you. Thank you so much. Very, very useful. And as I said, at any point, if you want to ask us something, do reach out. Or if there's a topic that you will find useful for your own development, this is a space that we can use for that. So there, I'm more interested in master practitioner level. So next time, Tatiana will take a look also at the master practitioner.
Oh, we did look at the master practitioner.
We looked at the courses. So we looked at the different accreditation levels. We went through ICF, ACC, PCC, MCC, EMCC, blah, 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 in a recording long time ago, when we tried to see what kind of program would fit depending on where you want to go.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think maybe what we can do also, because we're both of us aware of what it means for a EMCC mentor, I think that's also a nice conversation to bring and say, if you would be a mentor, an EMCC mentor from the Mentor Hub, and you would have a question about going for master practitioner level, what kind of things would you tell somebody? How would you support them? And I think that would be another
I think
topic that
that's
we.
a good idea to also have a conversation. What Because master practitioner is different from practitioner, and senior practitioner and is different from
Yes.
MCC. Master practitioner, we need the reflections on the capability indicators, of course, but we also need this thing called contribution to the profession. 3 to 5 years of contributions in 2 to 3 fields, and significant contributions and impact. And maybe we could give some examples of what counts and what doesn't count. And so, Tatiana, thank you. We'll definitely cover that.
Brilliant. So now you've seen it. Whatever you throw at us, we'll pick it up and we'll figure it out how we can embed it. And if it's relevant for coaching and mentoring and supervision and team coaching, we'll find a way to address it. Thank you so much, Kirsten. And I would say we see each other next time with the standard number 6. It's called outcome and action orientation. Really curious what we'll find out about that one. Have a lovely week and see you Monday.
See you Monday. Bye bye.